And we're live. Great. Okay, it's been an exciting week, folks. There's a lot of stuff that went down. The RNC finished on Thursday night, and I was telling people who were upset by having to spend 4 days watching the Democratic National Convention. You just wait, man. You just wait until this guy right here gets to put on his show. And you will see something unforgettable, something special. Because that guy is a showman. And he knows what he's doing. Okay? So, that's the first subject that we're going to be talking about. The RNC, which was full of life, which was full of ordinary citizens, which is full of energy and excitement, versus the sad, dreary, and depressing DNC, which was all about America's systemic racism. And, oh yes, thank you for reminding me about the microphone. Because I am an amateur at this point, okay? I forgot to mute my microphone. I hope that's better. Okay. The DNC was depressing. All they wanted to talk about all week long was how racist America is, how systemically racist it is. And this whole country is so messed up. And it's terrible, and it's horrible, and it needs a complete transformation. Like that wedding planner that Martin Short played in Father of the Bride. We change everything. Everything needs changing. We're a sad, sick, irredeemably racist country, and Joe Biden and Kamala are exactly what this guilty, evil country needs to whip its ass into shape. Okay, I was tired of hearing that crap by the second night of the DNC, but my job is politics, so I was forced to watch the whole thing. Yeah. And then the RNC happened. The RNC was I knew that was going to blow people away. I knew what was going to happen. Okay, somebody's saying they can't hear me. Can every please leave a note in the chat if you can hear me. Can you hear me or not? Somebody is saying they have no sound. So I would like to get confirmation, because I may have messed this up, that you can hear what I'm saying. Okay. So if you can't hear me, I guess that means that's something on your end. Okay. This RNC, Trump raised $76 million during this RNC, and they set ratings records, just like I knew he would. So you have to understand the themes of these campaigns have now been starkly laid out. That's what your convention is supposed to do. It's supposed to set the theme. It's supposed to be a launching pad for both campaigns to launch them into the home stretch of the final 2 months. Now we're like about how many days it is now, but we're about 2 months away from election day, and the convention is when you're supposed to excite your base, and you're supposed to build up all that enthusiasm, and you're supposed to get as much support as you can and get people excited about your ticket and what you're campaigning about. Okay, and the thing is, you contrast the DNC that had the week before this with the RNC this past week, and there's no comparison. For Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there is no excitement. There is no building enthusiasm. It's all an illusion. It's all a smokescreen, or like I've been saying, it's a hologram. The entire Biden campaign is a hologram. I mean, there were stories in late June that he was only then just beginning to hire people for top positions in the battleground states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Rust Belt states. Contrast that with Trump. Trump never stopped building his ground game. He never stopped. After they won in 2016, Brad Parscale and all those people on the Trump campaign team, they didn't take a vacation. Nope. They kept building their ground game. They kept knocking on doors, okay, and they kept building, especially in the states they know that they have to swing to get Trump reelected, the Rust Belt states. So what we've been watching for the last year is a carefully managed illusion that there is a national campaign. Joe Biden is the head of a national campaign. They have national reach, and he has people out there knocking on doors and they're building excitement. It's all a media creation. It's all a poll creation. Okay, like at no time in the past, the Democrats. The Democrats were at a point where they literally set themselves up for an impossible job. It's impossible. I was saying this last year. I did a column for Uncovered DC where I said the DNC media has set itself up to fail at an impossible task. They have to pretend there's building national momentum behind a dementia patient who just picked one of the most unpopular politicians in America for his running mate. They have to fake it like they have never faked it before. And they have to put so much energy and invest so much of themselves in this deception that when it doesn't work, and when Trump literally wins this election in a landslide, it will break them forever. They will be broken forever. And you watch over the next 60 days the amount of energy and money and time and personal investment these people are going to put into trying to pretend there's a growing national movement, an exciting movement that's building behind slow Joe Biden. And when it fails, what do they have left? What do they have left to give? They'll have invested it all. I mean, this is what's so great about this election. This is like no election this country has ever seen before. Okay? And Trump, his RNC is doing exactly what it was supposed to do. It built excitement. It built the enthusiasm. It excited the base. He's going to launch out from that. We saw this last night in the rally in New Hampshire, I believe it was. I watched some of that, okay? And he's going to be out there tirelessly on that campaign trail on the next 60 days. You're going to see him hit so many different states, okay? And Joe Biden, right now, Joe Biden is just starting to make noises that he's going to leave the basement. He's starting to say, yeah, I might have to get out of here. I might have to go on the road. I'll try to do it safely, where we won't be spreading COVID. Okay, but he got to make it look good. He has to make it look like they're really trying. That's the whole point of this illusion that they built around Joe Biden. You have to look like you're trying. So the polls, we all know the polls have been cooked for years. Most of the pollsters missed Trump winning in 2016. They still don't understand what his strategy is. Okay, Trump in 2016 did not waste any time going for the popular vote because the popular vote does not decide who is president. That's the Electoral College vote. The Electoral College vote decides who becomes the president. And he and Brad Parscale and Jared Kushner came up with a strategy to push him over the top by winning the Electoral College. They knew what states they had to go after, exactly how many states they needed to flip to get that win, and they got it. And this time, I keep stressing this. Trump is in so much better position this second time around. They've done everything they can for a year now, since a year and a half, since Biden declared his candidacy. They've done everything they can to make it look like Trump is increasingly unpopular. Trump is increasingly hated in this country. Trump is increasingly isolated. He's increasingly under siege, surrounded, and his base is shrinking, and the Democrats, wow, everybody loves the Democrats. Everybody is against systemic racism. Everybody can't wait, to raise their fist like they're supposed to, on demand, when it's ordered that you raise your fist by these mobs in the streets. Everybody loves that. Everybody loves all the rioting. They love all the looting that's going on. They love the constant emphasis on racism in their sports now. They love it. Okay? It's not working. Not working. You weren't already insane, and you already didn't have a vested financial interest in the Democratic Party, then all this crap they've been pulling since January, it's not working. Okay? I'm sorry, it's not working. What all this is doing is pissing people off. So Trump's base is actually growing. It's the Democratic base that's shrinking. I've been saying this for months. Who's being won over by any of this? Who's being won over by any of this radicalism? Openly talking about how America is a deeply flawed country, it's systemically racist, and it needs a big transformation. And these black-clad goons wearing masks, blowing up police cars, and trying to set police stations on fire, these are just the kind of people that lead this country into the future that it deserves. Okay? Who buys that shit? Okay. That's why the RNC was so good. They set the tone. They set the differing tones of the campaigns. And Biden didn't get launched to anything from that DNC. Do you notice? Okay, I followed conventions since 1988. I know I don't look it, but I'm 56 years old. Okay, 1988, I was in college back then, Bible College in Minnesota. And I started following the Dukakis-Bush campaign. That was Reagan's last year in office. So I've followed the politics since then, every race since 1988. And every party, when they get a bounce, when their DNC or their convention does its job, and they get launched from the convention, they get what's called a bounce. They get a convention bounce. And the parties love broadcasting that bounce. They, with the Democrats especially, Republicans have a harder time if they get a bounce out of their convention, getting what I call the DNC media complex to talk about it. But Democrats, hey, no problem. The DNC media loves talking about the bounce the Democrats get from their convention. So I was waiting, like I have, 88, 92, 96, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016. I'm waiting for the DNC to come out with the polls. Here's how big of a bounce we got from our convention. They ain't said shit. There are no polls. They won't release any polls. Their convention ended it was over a week ago. And there's complete radio silence. Coach Schlichter talked about this. He said, that the polls have the Democrats absolutely terrified because they haven't released any polling following the convention. And it's like tradition, you know, you get any kind of a bounce, you rush those polls out there. Okay, and the Democrats are hiding their polling. They're hiding it. What does that tell you? Not only did Biden not get a bounce from that depressing DNC and held in Milwaukee, a virtual convention. Not only did he not get a bounce from that, he's cratering, he's dropping in the polls. Even their fake polls can't hide it. They can't hide it. He's dropping by that much. Meanwhile, Trump's getting ready for the RNC. And he had a completely different take on the RNC that he was going to hold. Now, I already knew what the DNC media is going to say about the RNC. What's their theme about Trump done for going on 5 years now? He's a racist, he's a white supremacist, he's a fascist, okay? He is beyond the pale. You know, his politics are awful and terrible, and only deplorable people, you know, are support him, racist, support this president. So this is what they've been saying for 5 years now. So no surprise, as soon as the RNC ended, they came out and said, wow, that was the most racist RNC ever. You know, RNC's so white, one idiot actually tweeted, well, here was my answer to that. Well, they're out there saying that was quite possibly the most racist Republican National Convention ever. Okay? They're losing. They know they're losing. They're losing the minority vote. You know how many black people voted for Trump in 2016? 8%. He, in their own fake polls now, he's topping double that. He's topping 16%. He's going above 16%. And so Trump is successfully making the sale. He's making a sale to the minority community out there that historically, okay, the GOP has not done well with certain minority groups out there. I can attest to that. Since 1988, I've followed politics. They never seem to have a clue how to reach out to black people or the Hispanic or Latino vote. You know, they never seem to know how to do that. Okay, so this is another sign Trump is not a traditional GOP politician. Okay, he knows how to make that sell. He sits down and he listens to people. He listens to what their concerns are. He listens to what traditional problems and issues they've grappled with that politicians before him were never able to solve. And then he comes up with a plan and he works his ass off to make it happen. Look at criminal justice reform. How long were people talking about that? Well, boy, we sure need criminal justice reform in this country. We're locking up too many minority people for nonviolent crimes. Wouldn't it be great if somebody could do something about this? I heard people started saying that back in 2008, man. They were saying that. And we had a black president for 8 years. Did anything get done on criminal justice reform while Barack Obama was president and Joe Biden was his vice president? No. But here comes the racist guy. Here comes the white supremacist, the fascist, you know, the guy who wants to be a dictator. And what does he do during his first term? He sits down with black leaders. He sits down with criminal justice experts, and he comes up with a plan to reform our criminal justice system that lets thousands of people who were nonviolent offenders, lets them out of prison. And we had one of them speaking at the RNC this year. It was Alice Marie Johnson. She's at the top on the far left in that meme that I made right there. Alice Marie Johnson. She was sentenced to life in prison based on criminal justice law that Joe Biden helped write. She was never going to draw another free breath. It was a nonviolent crime. She was involved in some type of drug transaction. And she was supposed to spend the rest of her life in jail because of that. And Trump fixed it. He said, okay, there had to be grace, there had to be a way to set this up so that people who aren't violent and they aren't really dangerous to the rest of us, we don't end up keeping them in prison at the cost of millions and millions of dollars a year. There's got to be a way to fix this, and he came up with it. And black people see this. They see a president who talks about opportunity zones. He talks about the violent crime in the inner cities. The people who actually live in these cities have for years. They reached the point they've given up. Okay, it's been drilled into their heads. You are trapped. Okay, Democrats are in control here. They always will be in control, and as long as all this violence is limited to the minority sections of the city, this is just the way it's going to be. I've been telling people for years, if you saw 20 white people being shot in the white sections of Chicago every weekend, they'd have fixed this a long time ago. You wouldn't be hearing all the goddamn excuses you hear from people like Lori Lightfoot or Rahm Emanuel. The people in the white sections of the city, you had several dozen getting shot every weekend. They would have fixed this. Do I even have to debate that? It's true. If you had 30 white people being shot in a weekend in Chicago, it won't take long for them to crack down on that. Okay, but the Democratic power structure in that city is set up ideologically. It's an ideological, I think the best way to say this. When it comes to people like Lori Lightfoot and Rahm Emanuel and all these other Democrats that have controlled cities like Chicago and Detroit for all these generations, they are ideologically incapable of dealing with the crime problem. They have too many deeply ingrained beliefs, ideological beliefs. They cannot realistically deal with it. It's not possible for them to deal with it. Okay, and so black people in these inner cities have been conditioned to think, well, it's never going to change. Well, we can't vote for Republicans. Republicans are racist, so we're just stuck. And Lori Lightfoot and Rahm Emanuel, that's the best we can do. And the bodies keep piling up, the violence keeps growing, and nobody can do anything. Okay? And then Trump comes along, and Trump is not a traditional politician. He's not somebody that came up through the political system and learned all the lingo and learned all the culture. He never learned the culture. People try to pretend this is a setback with him, and it's not. It's not a setback that Trump didn't come up through the political system. He is a true outsider. He says he doesn't mind pissing everybody off. He says, look, he's done nothing but what since he got in charge. Called out these Democratic mayors. It is possible, and this is what he says, it is possible for you to make this crime go away. You can do it. You just don't want to. You don't want to do it. And he's right. They don't want to. And so the black people in this country, they see a president now who is trying to fix the problem. It's not giving them the usual platitudes about, gun control, all that crap. He's saying, I want to fix the problem, and the problem is the mayors in your cities are not enforcing the law. They're handicapping their own police forces, and they don't. And God forbid anybody call a Democratic mayor a racist. They will actually let the bodies pile up so the morgue is overflowing, but at least nobody can call them a racist. So they have that. So Trump is endlessly calling out people like Ted Wheeler. Ted Wheeler is just the latest one. We've had Lightfoot in Chicago. You've got Jenny Durkin in Seattle. You've got Bill de Blasio in New York City. And now you've got Ted Wheeler in Portland, Oregon. Just yesterday, Trump again said, you want to stand there and you allow me to come in and help, I will help. I will help to get your city under control. And Ted Wheeler writes this long letter to President Trump. Oh, we're fine here. You'll just make everything worse. Stay away. We don't need you here. You'll just make everything worse. This is a guy there's been nonstop riots in his city for 3 months to this point. I've got it all under control. Everything's fine. Really, go away. You can't save these people from themselves. And if there's one thing you can say about the insanity of the last 6 months, it's forced a whole lot of people, including black people, to realize the Democrats will never fix these problems. They are ideologically incapable of fixing them. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And so Trump is taking full advantage of this. He's taking full advantage of it. And he pulled off an RNC here, man. He brought all these people out to talk real talk. Okay. I watched something called the Get Your Knee Off Our Necks March in Washington, D.C. yesterday. And they brought out Al Sharpton and all the usual suspects to talk about this country is more racist than ever. This country needs a radical transformation to get rid of all the racism. And it needs a Democratic Party. It needs Democrats in charge everywhere. Because the Democrats are the ones that hold this racism back. They're the ones that stop it, and they're the only ones that can get rid of it. I spent a whole afternoon yesterday watching Sharpton, and people talk like it's like they think they still live in 1950s Mississippi. Okay. And then you look at the RNC and you see people like Vernon Jones and Burgess Owens and Clarence Henderson and Jaron Smith and Alice Marie Johnson and Herschel Walker and Kim Classic and Ben Carson and all these people, and they're not giving you the same old bullshit. They're not talking about the same old Al Sharpton monologue. They're giving people real talk. Okay, this president saw our problems, and he is doing everything he can to fix them. Kim Classic in Baltimore. I hope you've all seen that video that she made of her walking through a Baltimore neighborhood. Guys. I'm trying to remember the name of that longtime Baltimore congressman who died this year. That guy was in power for 40 years. See, the Democratic machine's been running Baltimore for decades. And things keep getting worse and worse and worse. And Trump made it a point to begin calling that guy out. Saying he's been in charge. And his district is the worst district in Baltimore. He's sitting on important committees in Congress. But what's he doing for his constituents? He's got a trash and rat-filled district. Crime is through the roof. And Trump started, the GOP, they still had, a lot of the establishment GOP had this idea, we have to follow decorum, okay? You do not call out people like that, you have to play nice. Trump got, Elijah Cummings, thank you. Okay. Trump comes out and says, Elijah Cummings has the worst district in the country. My God, his district is full of rats and garbage and crime. And he's been in power how many years? How many decades has he been supposedly representing this district, and look at it. What's he done for these people? And then, you know how somebody like Mitt Romney or John McCain would react to that? Oh my God, no, stop. You don't do that. You don't call them out like that. You don't embarrass them like that. Okay. That's why nothing ever changes. And that's why, the black people that live in those cities are beaten down, man. They're taught it's Democrats forever and ever, amen. You're trapped. And there's nothing you can do about it. Ha ha ha. And then this president shows up. He says, this is unacceptable. And I'm going to fix it. I'm going to change it. And I don't care whose toes I have to step on to make this happen. And we watched him step on a lot of toes the last 3.5 years, haven't we? He literally doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. Stepped on Elijah Cummings' toes. What have you done? Look at your district. What have you done for the people living in that district in the 20-something, 30 years you've been in Congress? What have you done? And that simply doesn't happen. You do not call these people out like this. If you're part of the political DC establishment, you play nice with the other side. You don't do that, okay? And I talk about, Trump is destroying norms and stuff. Well, yeah, there are a whole lot of norms that need destroying. I just saw a tweet this morning from the GOP minority leader. That's Kevin McCarthy. He said something. Nancy Pelosi started calling Republicans domestic enemies, enemies of the state, enemies of America the other day. Kevin McCarthy comes out and says, this is unacceptable. Nancy Pelosi should apologize for those remarks because this, this is against the decorum, the rules of decorum. We're supposed to comport ourselves as representatives of the people. We are supposed to act according to certain rules. And when she calls us enemies of the state, she is violating decorum. And I sent a tweet to Minority Leader McCarthy. Have you been paying attention for the last 3 years? 5 years? The Democratic leadership has been saying for years at this point. You are, because you've joined up with Trump, because Trump is now the leader of your party, you are not legitimate political opposition any longer. You are not allowed to publicly speak or represent your fascist political views in this country. They've been saying that, and this isn't some radicals out in the street. The Democratic Party leadership has been saying this for years. And Kevin McCarthy's like, hump, well, this is against the decorum. We must comport ourselves better than this. I would call upon the gentle lady to apologize. Yeah. About two years ago, they started this big thing where they were going to shame all the Trump people, and they're not even showing their faces in public. 3 years ago, they started that. They started whenever some prominent Republican or GOP person or somebody in the Trump administration was seen eating out somewhere in D.C., they coordinated this Democratic socialist activists. They all had it on their phones ready, they buzzed each other. Sarah Sanders is at this restaurant. And they all send their little messages out to each other and drop what they were doing. And they would all rush to that restaurant, whoo, to surround her and try to ostracize her and catcall her into leaving the restaurant. They did that to Sarah Sanders. They did that to Mitch McConnell. They did that to Ted Cruz. They were literally you know, at the street level saying, get out of this town. You're not allowed to even show your face in public any longer. You're not allowed to do that. And they tried this big push for a while. That didn't work. You don't see as much of it anymore now. Where they're organizing these things where, oh look, so and so is at the is eating at this restaurant. Let's all go surround him and yell at him. But for a while they were doing that. Okay, remember when that actor at the Super Bowl, he's shown sitting with Trump and talking with him? The actor. He was in Dodgeball. Okay, and the left lost their mind because that Super Bowl, that was when it started to dawn on them that it wasn't working. That this whole thing that we're going to make them pariahs. We're gonna force everybody to stay away from Trump. They're up until that moment they thought they were successfully selling this. Yes, Vince Vaughn, thank you. They thought they were selling this idea that Trump is under siege. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to be seen with him. Nobody wants to associate with him. And then they see Vince Vaughn sitting in Trump's box, and they freaked out. I mean, for 2 or 3 days I was seeing tweets about that. It burned their ass. Oh, this can't be happening. Some actor wants to be seen. He has no problem being seen in public with Trump. Doesn't he understand? You're not supposed to be doing that. Look where we are now. Okay, so they've been saying for going on ever since Trump was inaugurated that they've tried to sell this desperately. His popularity is falling. Nobody likes him. He's under siege. He's barricaded in the White House. Now, and for a time, I think Trump and his people were actually letting them believe that. They were actually feeding them fake leaks about, Trump sitting in his bathrobe in the White House, slurping Diet Coke and watching the Gorilla Channel, and he's so depressed because nothing's working out the way he expected it to. Didn't we have stories like that in the media for almost the first year he was in office? He's overwhelmed. He doesn't know what to do. He's under siege. He feels like he's under siege. He feels like he can't move. The walls are closing in. Good, for a year and a half, all the way up until, Mueller ended, they were feeding this narrative. So Trump's not under siege, despite their best efforts to keep trying to sell this idea that nobody likes this president. People don't like him. And here we are, the final 2 months in the build-up to the 2020 election. And are starting to realize they can't stop this guy. All their clever media tricks of trying to pretend that Trump was a national pariah and growing increasingly unpopular. It didn't work. At the same time, they've been trying to pretend that the Democrats are growing. The steam of their movement, they're growing. They're building momentum. They're building enthusiasm. Sometimes I wonder how much my life would suck if I was a member of the DNC media and I have to get up and I've got two things I have to do every day. I have to write bullshit stories claiming Trump is more unpopular than ever, and then when I get done telling that story in, I have to turn around and write a different story. Wow, how about that Joe Biden, huh? Wow, people are really loving Joe Biden. The enthusiasm for Joe Biden is building and building out there. At least I get paid for this. I cannot imagine having that kind of a job. So we have about 60 days to the election. And Trump has already hit the campaign trail. You saw him in New Hampshire, and just the past week, he's been in Pennsylvania, he's been in Virginia, he's been in New Hampshire. I mean, he'll be doing rallies every 3 or 4 a week for 2 solid months. High energy. Meanwhile, Biden, it's like Biden can't campaign is a sad, sick thing. And I get to the point that I can't even feel good about mocking it. Okay, the whole thing is a joke. So all these people, I get tweeted out all day by people who are worried the Democrats are going to steal the election. They know Biden's not popular. They know he's going to trail by, a lot, but it doesn't matter because they'll just go ahead and manufacture a couple dozen million fake votes and they'll hand him the Electoral College. And I don't see that happening. I've been saying for months, the gaps are too big. Most people have no idea how big a 5% gap, 5 points is in a national election. They have no idea how big that gap is. And Biden's going to lose many of these states by a lot more than 5 points. So if you've researched this and you looked into it, then you know it's literally impossible to steal a national election. Now, they got to pull this off once, with John F. Kennedy in Chicago. Saul Martin's Bradley walked me through this a while back. That they had just a couple thousand votes they needed to swing in Chicago. Back in whatever year that was, 1960. They just needed a couple thousand votes in Illinois to flip that state. And Nixon decided not to contest it. Okay, that's not how this is going to go. They're not going to have, like in these battleground states, just a couple thousand votes here and a couple thousand votes there. That's not how this is going to go. Okay, because we're watching the Democratic Party has gone and has literally gone insane. All these Democratic cities are being run by mayors who are deliberately, they're doing this on purpose. It's become obvious. They used to have something like plausible deniability. Oh, I'm not actually standing my police force down. I'm not actually preventing them from going in there and enforcing the law and stopping the crime. I'm not doing that. I don't know where you're getting that insane idea. And they have some cover, okay? But now, there really is. Of course, they deny it, but look, their plausible deniability is gone. It's not plausible. When Lori Lightfoot and Jenny Durkan and Ted Wheeler and Bill de Blasio come out there and mumble, well, I'm doing all that I can, and I'm not preventing the police from enforcing the law. What a crazy idea, okay? Nobody buys it anymore. So that's where we're at. And Trump is going to take full advantage of that. 60 more days of more insanity. Of more of these Antifa and BLM lunatics in the streets doing everything they can to drive more sane people into voting for Trump. And it's going to be awesome. Okay, so that's the state of the race here as we sit here August 29th, 2020. Trump is killing it. Trump is way ahead. Biden's making noises, okay? And people out there still trying to sell the idea, that the Democrats can steal this. Keep watching. Their own fake polls are now telling them it's close. If they tell you that it's Biden 49% and Trump 47%, you know he's at least 5 to 6 points higher than that, and that they're putting their thumb on the scale and they're for Biden, and they're pushing down hard to get him that 2-point lead. I just keep watching. 60 more days, and the stuff Trump does, and the things that Trump and his administration drop, okay, over the next 60 days will have a dramatic impact on the race. Do I think they're going to swap out Biden? No, I don't. No. If they were going to swap Biden, they'd have done it by now. 60 days, 60 days to the election, nobody could even make a pretense of coming in and launching their own national campaign in 60 days. What would Biden have if Biden calls in Hillary Clinton? Here's my campaign. I give you my national campaign. Best of luck. Who in the we're talking about realists here. Who would accept that? Biden doesn't have a real national campaign. What is there to take over? It doesn't make any sense. I've followed national politics since '88. You can't drop out at this late date and get anything done. It's too late. It's far too late. So let's move on to the next subject, and that is FBI Special Agent Joseph Pientka III. Now, some of you probably don't know who FBI Special Agent Joseph Pientka III is. But don't worry, I'll tell you who he is. Back on January 24th, 2017, two FBI agents showed up to interview Lieutenant General Michael Flynn at the White House. He just settled in as Trump's new national security advisor. One of these FBI agents appears at the top row, second from the left. His name is Peter Strzok. It's spelled S-T-R-Z-O-K. Peter Strzok. The second FBI agent who showed up to interview Michael Flynn that day is the first mystery person. It appears at the bottom right. The name of that FBI agent was Joseph Pientka III. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. And all the years, I've been almost 3 years now, I've been writing about Joseph Pientka and wondering when he's going to surface. Okay, because we all know about Strzok, right? Strzok, man, from the moment Strzok's text messages with Lisa Page became public back in December of 2017, when Inspector General Horowitz gave them to Congress and they became public. Everybody knows about Strzok, man. He was called out, remember, for that very contentious public hearing where you see all the screenshots of the goofy, weird, demonic-looking faces that he made during that hearing. Okay, so he's been a public figure for going on over 3 years now. Everybody knows who he is. There's pictures everywhere. I have no trouble finding a picture of him, okay? Joseph Pientka. I've only been able to find 2 pictures that are purported to be this guy. One of them, he's in a tactical SWAT gear, and it's a profile because he's standing almost right in front of the camera. He's like a profile like this, and he's got a rifle, and he's wearing a helmet. And so, and I claim that's Pientka, but you don't really get a good look at it. The other one is the fuzzy group photo. He's being photographed with about over a dozen other people. And you can't really say for sure that's him either. So they've done such a good job of keeping this guy under wraps for going on 3 years now. There was an amazing development this week. It's being reported that he's talking to Congress now. He's talking to Lindsey Graham and the Senate Judiciary Committee staff. He voluntarily came and sat for an interview with them. And I gotta understand, Chuck Grassley put this guy's name on our list 2.5 years ago. there are a lot of people in Congress that have been wanting to talk to this guy for a long time. Because remember, he's the other agent. There's Peter Strzok and there's Joe Pientka. These were the guys that sat down and the interview that launched the entire Flynn case, which we're still waiting to hear what's going to happen with that. D.C. Court of Appeals has not ruled yet. That all started because Andrew McCabe and James Comey set up this ambush interview of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and they set it up by calling Flynn up on the phone saying, hey, we realized there was a leak in the Washington Post 2 weeks back. Well, it was claimed that perhaps you maybe possibly could have violated the Logan Act. And so people for 2 weeks now have been saying, wow, somebody really should investigate that Flynn guy. See, he's, trying to undermine Obama's sanctions. Yeah, see if he's violating the Logan Act. Well, we reviewed the phone call intercepts and we've decided you did nothing wrong, so we're closing. We've investigated this and you're fine, General Flynn. We're just sending 2 agents out to the White House to have a friendly chat with you, a friendly interview. And there's no reason for you to have any White House counsel present for this interview. And the story goes, Flynn said, great, send him over. We'll sit and have a nice chat. Yeah. Now, I know people have their different take on this, but I never bought it. Okay, Flynn knows he's the target. He just says, sure, man, send him over. He was completely disarmed and put at ease by Andrew McCabe, a guy that he knows is a snake, calling him up on the phone, telling him, I'm sending 2 agents over to just a formality, just a couple of quick questions about this case that we've already closed. Yeah, that's how it all started. And Joseph Pientka III is there. He's present at the creation. And they turned Peter Strzok into a national figure. He's been a national figure for going on 3 years now, 3.5 years. Ever since December 2017, while those text messages were first published. But the other guy, as I like to say, the other guy became a literal ghost. I actually have a meme I made up about, Joseph Pientka, the DOJ's invisible man. Because they kept this guy incommunicado for going, ever since Grassley put his name on that list. And people figured out, aha! Oh, that was the other agent at the interview. He hasn't been heard from. He hasn't been seen. Nobody's been allowed to question him. A literal ghost. And then in the last 2 months, his name started to surface again. We found out he was the one that gave that fake defensive briefing to candidate Trump, General Flynn, and Chris Christie. That wasn't a real defensive briefing. No, they actually set that up so they could observe Trump and Flynn. Because, Pientka's part of Crossfire Hurricane. It was part of what we're told is a counterintelligence investigation. That was an investigative tool for the FBI. It was not a real defensive briefing. That came out about a month and a half ago. Then the other day, Pientka's name surfaces again. So we reach the point his name keeps coming up. And now, multiple sources are saying that Pientka was brought in and interviewed by the Senate Judiciary Committee staff. I want you to grasp something about this, okay? People in Congress have been wanting to talk to this guy for a long time. And he was not allowed to talk. He was not allowed to be seen or questioned by anybody for the last 2.5 years. What is suddenly different? What changed? Because if now, and there's a word that they use, and the Federalist has an article on this. Multiple sources told the Federalist he voluntarily showed up. He wasn't under subpoena. He just showed up and said, "Ask away." Now, I can see some of you are asking why Graham and some of the Senate staff, but not other members of the committee. Well, I'll tell you why. I've labored over the past 3 years to explain the sheer massive scope of this thing. I often fail because I think I see people that they don't seem to grasp how big this is. When you talk about Spygate, and we talk about the Russiagate hoax, what it is, how it was created, who launched it, how they sustained it, okay? You're talking about people in the White House. You're talking about people in this FBI, obviously. You're talking about people in the Department of Justice. You're talking about people in the State Department, okay? And you're talking about people, even people from foreign intelligence agencies and foreign intelligence services in other countries. That's how big this is. Do you realize how many national security issues are involved in this thing? Because I don't think a lot of people grasp it. When you're talking about a deliberate plot to overthrow a president and launch a coup that involves people from all across the spectrum: White House, FBI, DOJ, CIA, State Department, MI6, Italian intelligence services, and Rome. I mean, Australia. Okay, when you grasp the size of this thing, there are national security issues whittled all through this. So I'll tell you why not just anybody can hear what Pientka has to say at this point. Because the story he has to tell is so chock full of national security issues, information, stuff that is still classified. There cannot be any leaks. Zero. None. So they're going to tightly control who he talks to, who hears the answers he gives to these questions. They're not just going to let every Tom, Dick, or Harry on the committee or in Congress hear this, because if they don't control it, it will leak out. And what's the one thing I say about the people handling this? The people who are really in charge of it. What do I call them? The silent professionals. We're not going to hear a damn thing until it's safe for us to hear a damn thing. These people do not leak. So Durham interviewed Brennan last week. And just a couple days after Durham interviews Brennan, suddenly it's announced Joseph Pientka has surfaced, and he's talking in private to us in a very carefully controlled environment. He is being questioned and he is giving answers. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Pientka is making this appearance just a couple days after Brennan is questioned by Durham, because a lot of people look at that and say that means that was the last thing Durham was going to do before he wrapped up. And there's probably some paperwork things and some minor finalizing going on, okay? But Denham, for all essential purposes, is done at this point. Excuse me, Durham, for all essential purposes, is done at this point. And then a guy who they have held back and hidden for 2.5 years, all of a sudden he gets permission, or he's told, go to the Senate Judiciary and start talking. I don't think that's a coincidence. So they see there's a couple people involved in this Russiagate thing that have essentially been allowed to hide out and be kept out of sight during all this time. Pientka, Professor Joseph Mifsud, Stefan Halper, and Stephen Sommer. There's been no public acknowledgement or approval or appearance by any of these people at this point. And so I think it's major news when suddenly Pientka begins to surface and we start hearing he's talking. Now, he's only going to talk to certain select people in a carefully controlled environment. But there are reasons for that. And I want you to understand what they are. This is so sensitive. That we got so used to the Obama way of doing things, with the constant leaking and the Mueller Special Counsel. And you have to understand how much damage was done by the media and the intelligence people and the FBI people and the DOJ people that were using leaks to put targets on people's backs, and we're using leaks to drive narratives. To go after people and to sell false information to the public. There was an immense amount of damage that was done by that. The good guys don't do this shit. They do not leak. They're going to wait until it's absolutely safe. It's all been declassified. It's time to go public with it. Then you will hear about it. And until then, sorry. Sorry, they're not. You're not going to know what is it that Joe Pientka is giving Lindsey Graham and the Senate staff right now. Okay, I confess, I would really like to know. I would, but I understand why I can't. A lot of people, out there in the conservative media sphere, they're selling the idea now that Kleinsmith is the fall guy. They're going to limit this to just Kleinsmith. See, Kleinsmith will be the only one, like this. He's the only one with an X on his face here. That's Kevin Kleinsmith right there. He's the fall guy. There's going to be just that one guy. They're going to limit it to just him and nobody else. Well, I don't agree with that, but that's what they're saying. Durham is just has got his one scalp and that was going home. And that's not how this is going to go. The Pientka's getting ready to surface. That tells me, Stephen Sommer won't be that far behind. Sommer was involved in everything Kleinsmith was involved in. If you look at the IG report, Sommer knows all the stuff about Cody Page that Kleinsmith did. And they actually go through the IG report from last December, the FISA abuse report. They go into all the stuff someone was hiding from the court that still is an operative of Hillary Clinton, that he knew the still source that disavowed the Cody Page allegations. He heard the exculpatory statements that Cody Page and George Papadopoulos made while Stefan Harper was recording them. And lastly, he hid the fact that Cody Page had a long-standing informant relationship with the CIA. That's just 4 things right there. I know there's 2 others I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay, but this guy is dirty, all right? And he's gonna be surfacing soon. So Pientka showing up at the Senate Judiciary Committee to be interviewed. That's big. Okay. Now let me bring up something about Congress that a lot of people are wondering about. Why is it that Lindsey Graham's the only one driving this? About the fake briefing that was given to the Trump campaign. About the fake briefing that was given to the Senate Intelligence Committee by this guy, Bill Priestap. Bill Priestap is on the bottom left row. That's Bill Priestap, the guy being pictured with the American flag in the background. Just a while back, it came out, Bill Priestap went to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and basically he bullshitted the committee. He told them, and this was in February 2018 or something like that. He told them, yes, Christopher Steele's source stands by everything he said about Cody Page. He stands by it. That's good, solid information. And of course, everybody involved knew that was bullshit by that point, because we know the source's name is Igor Danchenko. The FBI finally got around to talking to him in January 2017, when they were getting ready to make the first renewal of the Cody Page surveillance warrant. And Danchenko completely disavowed all the allegations, and the FBI knew that in January 2017. And then 13 months later, there was Bill Priestap bullshitting the Senate Intelligence Committee, lying to them, basically, and saying that Steele dossier is good stuff. That still, I just hit my microphone. That Steele dossier is good stuff. That source stands by all of it. That warrant was A-OK, man. Nothing wrong with that warrant. It was perfectly fine. What have I been saying all along? These people are morons. They left a paper trail a mile wide and 10 miles deep. So, why is it, okay, Lindsey Graham chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's the only one trying to get to the bottom of why did Priestap go and give a fake briefing to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Nobody on the Senate Intelligence Committee seems to care. Marco Rubio doesn't care. When he chaired the committee, Richard Burr didn't care. Again, I guarantee you, Mark Warner didn't give a shit. Okay, so there's a lot of corruption in Congress. I don't mean to shock you, but did you know that? There's a lot of corruption in Congress. There's a lot of GOP establishment still in the Senate, on these Senate committees. And some of you don't trust Graham, I know that. He's the only one digging. Marco Rubio ain't going to do any digging. Graham's the only one arranging for Pientka to come talk to them. And it's important. They're tightly controlling who gets to hear what Pientka has to say. Now, some people will take that and spin it to you in very nefarious ways. Okay. But the way I look at it is, Graham understands there are a lot of people, even Republicans on his own committee, that will try to sabotage this. If they find out what Pientka is saying, they will leak it to the media just as fast as they can leak it. That's what would happen. They see that's how the swamp protects itself. Leaking, okay, think of the best way to say this. There are a lot of people out there. Tom Fitton's one of them. Tom Fitton only looks at leaks as a positive light. This is how it strikes me. He thinks leaking is good things. It's a good thing there's leaks. I want whistleblowers and leakers to come to me and feed me stuff, because that's how we hold these bastards accountable. There's a flip side to that. There's a very dark side to leaking, because this is how you blow up investigations, and this is how you forewarn targets, and this is how you tip off people to destroy evidence. This is how you tip off people to take moves to avoid accountability. Leaks. All leaking is not the same. If a genuine whistleblower leaks something to bring a wrongdoing and criminal acts to attention, that's great. But that's not the kind of leaking that a lot of these people would be doing in Congress. Right now, if there are Republican establishment members, if they could hear what Pientka is saying, they leak it as fast as they can to warn all their buddies in the swamp what he's talking about, and what Durham has, and what he knows. Absolutely, they leak it as fast as they can do it. And so, you told me you don't trust Lindsey Graham. I'll give you a test. I'll give you a test. We'll check back in a week. We'll see what happened, okay? You see if anything leaks from Pientka's interview. If it leaks, Graham is swamp. Absolutely. If nothing leaks, then they did the smart thing here. So I understand you say you don't trust Graham. Yes, Graham was very close to McCain. Graham was swamp. I believe Trump converted him. Either that or Trump threatened him, and he started straightening up and flying right. So we'll see if there's any leaks here. We'll see if what Pientka is telling certain select members of the Judiciary Committee and their staff. We'll see if any of that leaks out. But this is, we're still waiting. I understand nobody likes waiting. I hate to wait. I'm a patient guy, but I hate to wait. You know, we've got one conviction so far. There's a lot of people out there saying, there won't be any more. This is over. You know, we're just, you know, Durham got his scalp and it's over. Well, I think Pientka is talking because he got the go-ahead, because Durham wrapped up. Interviewing Brennan was the last thing they had left on the agenda. So I'm not going to make a prediction. Next week, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. Nobody told me anything. But I know serious people are in charge of this. And they understand what the stakes are. They understand what hangs in the balance here. I think they're going to do the right thing. That's my take. Take it or leave it. So Joe Pientka's talking. Now we've had the Brennan interview. And more evidence is coming out. Stuff keeps being declassified all the time. You know, a lot of people have this idea, that fantasy, that Trump would call a press conference and there'd be a couple big binders and on a table in front of me, say, there it is, there, declassified all of it, all at once, dig in, let the media have it. And that's not really how they've gone about this. You look at all the declassifications that's gone on starting in April, when Jim Jensen first appeared and handed off that first batch of exculpatory documents to Sidney Powell. You look at all the stuff that's been declassified one at a time since then. Okay, now a lot of people don't agree with the slow rollout. They're like, I wouldn't have done it like this. Okay, I think Trump and Rick Grinnell and all those other guys, they're doing it wrong. Now, I would not have done it like this. Okay, fine, that's your opinion. You're welcome to it. I happen to think they know what they're doing. Richard Grinnell said something in his RNC speech the other night. He talked about whistleblowers who, when this whole Russiagate thing was launching, whistleblowers who tried to stop it, who tried to call it out, and how they were silenced. He said he's seen it all. He knows what happened. He's seen it. Trump keeps saying, we caught them. We have it all. We caught them all. Trump keeps saying that. Okay? And Trump is a master showman. I keep saying, I knew he was going to hold a great RNC. Okay? So Trump understands what the timing is there. Okay? A lot of people are nervous. A lot of people hate waiting. But serious people are in charge of this, and they know the stakes. I've said before, nobody understands better than Donald J. Trump what happens to him and his family if he loses this election. If you think he has any illusions about that, let me assure you, he does not. This is a guy who successfully navigated a pandemic, an economic collapse, and a nationwide insurrection. Oh, but he lost his mojo and he's going to lose this election. There seem to be people who do nothing all day but sit around and tweet that at me. He's lost his mojo. He demoted Brad Posco. He doesn't know what he's doing. Deception guy. Who is that? Nobody. It's a cipher. He's making all the wrong moves. He's going to lose to Joe Biden. So I just want to close with this. Trump hasn't lost his mojo. Maybe you have. Okay. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He's running this time against a far weaker opponent than he was 4 years ago. He has a record to run on, a record that is actually drawing minority voters to him. He has a ground game he has not ceased to build in 4 years. They go and knock on 1 million doors a week. Biden campaign's knocking on no doors, okay? Trump understands the stakes here. He knows what's at stake. You look at him on the campaign trail in the coming weeks, I want you to think about something. Does this guy look like he's nervous? Does he look like he's missing any sleep? Does he look like he thinks his fate is hanging in the balance and it's in doubt? Just consider that. Because I see a guy who looks like he's actually had years drop off of him. He looks healthy, healthier and more energetic than ever. So I don't think he's nervous at all. I think he's got good reasons for not being nervous. He's far better informed than any of the rest of us. So he knows what he's doing and he knows what the stakes are. So let's check back in a week and let's see what happened. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate you taking an hour and a half of your Saturday morning to spend time with me, sitting in here babbling away for an hour and a half. Thank you all. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.